that fixed the sound. I'll check the comments, but it's so lovely when you're doing something live and you have technical, not prowess. I have the opposite of technical prowess. So I think that should have fixed the sound. Yes. Okay. It looks like it fixed it. Okay, yay, Melanie. All right. So, again, from the top, let me just say, Jen Hoffman from Healthy Moving. I am a big, huge fan of weaving movement into your activities. I work with a lot of people who have some kind of resistance, experienced some kind of resistance to movement. So they've started exercise programs and not been able to stick with them for a long time, or they've not started because they have pain, or they've started and they've gotten pain, or they just feel like they can't figure out the time in their schedule. They're so busy and life is so crazy, they don't have the time to exercise. So I really like to, while I think it's very powerful and especially beneficial for you mentally and emotionally, to even do short pockets of exercise, like 10 to 15 minutes is great. But it's really important, not just for your body, but also for your mind, that you figure out ways to make the things that you're doing in life more dynamic. So that's what we're doing today. We're wrapping presents in a dynamic way. We're trying to move our body as we wrap. If you're trying this and you like it, I would be so grateful if you shared it with your friends, with anybody who you think would benefit from it. We're going to do, over the course of the next hour, some exercises for the lower body, the feet and the legs, some stuff for the hips and the back, and also some stuff for the head and the neck. So we're starting seated in a chair, and I prefer to be sitting on the sit bones. So if you kind of pay attention to your pelvis, you don't want to be sitting back on your sacrum. You want to be forward on your sit bones. But for most of us, we would push there with the back. We don't want that. We want to kind of relax into the position. So a lot of us need some kind of a prop. I have a pool noodle here. You can use a rolled up towel, anything like that. And then we're going to work the feet. So when you're sitting, you want to take the top of your foot. This is a seated top of the foot stretch. You want to take the top of your foot to the floor, however far it can go for you. I like doing this one we're going to do a standing version of this as well. And I like doing a standing version, but it's weight bearing, and so it's more intense. So if we start kind of warming up here in this seated position, I don't think I've said it since I figured out the sound problem, but we're going to do some wrapping seated in a chair, some standing, and some seated on the floor. So we're starting here seated in a chair. If you've done I did my right foot first. It doesn't matter which one you did first, but whatever foot you've done first, switch it, bring that one back in, and tuck the other foot behind you. So when you're doing something else, a lot of times we get in our head really hung up about the precise exact way to do a movement. And I think that I understand where we're coming from with that. A lot of the times it's because we're worried about getting injured, or we know that, if you do an exercise in a different way, it works different muscles. So if you're doing an exercise with a particular purpose and you don't do it in exactly the way that it's cued, then you might not get the exact muscular experience. But when you're doing something like what we're doing today, which is just about getting movement in while you're doing something else, just about weaving some movement in here in the middle of taking care of yourself here in the middle of tasks that you have to do, don't get hung up about how precise everything is. So I just have the top of my foot toward the floor. That's all I'm doing. I brought my tags over because I'm notorious for doing wrapping and having like some of the things I need, but not all of the things. And then I'll have all these presents and I'll think, I'll remember who that one's for, but I never remember. Okay, so do one more time on each foot. I'm doing my right. One present down. This is my first present I have wrapped so far this season. All right, now we're gonna work up the chain of the legs, up to the hip. So this time, what I want to invite you to experiment with is taking, and I'm gonna turn toward you first. So we're gonna take the ankle of one foot. And if you want to mirror me for now, you can do your left foot first. I have my right foot flat on the ground, and I'm bringing my left ankle up to my right thigh, just above the knee on the thigh. And then my hips are pretty open, so my left knee, my right knee, but your left, my knee goes down toward the ground, and my shin comes to parallel to the ground. If yours does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. You just want to let it relax toward the floor. When you're doing something seated, as you're doing this, one of the cool things is that then you can kind of lean forward towards. I do this one while I'm eating all the time. I generally don't like to sit at my computer. I like to stand or be on the floor for most of my computer time. But if I am sitting at my computer, then this is definitely one that you might find me doing at my computer. And when you're doing something like wrapping presents, you're moving while you're here. So like as I'm bending forward to cut the paper, I'm getting a different experience the whole time I'm going through. So it's just something to play with as you're doing it. All right, I see all of you saying that the sound worked. Maybe you're not commenting because you're all busy wrapping along with me. If you started with your left foot, take your right foot up. The ankle should be supported so that you don't have some kind of bend at the ankle. That's ideal to have the ankle supported. And then you can kind of lean forward as much as is comfortable for you. There's all different variations of this one that you can do. I'll show you in a second a fun variation. When I say fun, I mean fun and intense, hard work. It looks like nothing, but it's a lot. Try as you finish up the gift that you're on right now, doing a dynamic version of that. So you're not actually going to let if you do your left side first for this, you're not going to let the left ankle actually touch the right thigh. So straighten your right leg out, cross your left ankle over the shin and but hover above the right leg, just a couple of inches. And then see if you can bring the foot up the leg and down the leg, up the leg and down the leg, and then try the same thing on the second side. It looks like nothing, right? But it's a ton of work for the hip. I call this like a dynamic pigeon because you're really moving as you do it. I like to drink like peppermint tea. I didn't bring a tea out right now just because it's a little late at night. I don't want to, even my decaf tea, I don't want to get too revved up. But you won't need a hot beverage if you do these dynamic pigeons while you're wrapping because your core temperature will go up. And then kind of shake out your legs. I'm going to put my label on this one. Another fun one, I didn't bring a ball out, but another fun one that you can do if you like wrapping in a seated position is to put a ball, a tennis ball or a yoga tune-up ball, some kind of ball underneath your feet and roll your feet around on the ball. You could do that standing as well, but it's really simple to play with it from a seated position. All right, on the next one, we're going to work a very simple exercise for the head and neck that you can do any time and anywhere. We're going to do it seated because it's great, but this is a mindfulness practice that you can bring into your day wherever you are. When you're driving in the car, when you're working at your desk, when you're standing at your kitchen sink, all the time. My screensaver's coming on. So that you can get the appropriate alignment in your head and neck. So this is called ramp the head. If you imagine, actually turn behind you if you're seated still, or even if you're standing, and look at the place where your wall behind you meets your ceiling. You want to take your head in that direction, toward that corner. So you're not just going up and you're not going back. You're going kind of at a diagonal up and back. But you want to do that without taking your chest along for the ride. So you don't want to do this. See how my chest kind of lifted up in the front? We want to keep the chest down and take the head up and back. So before you start wrapping, just see if you can feel that. Your chest and ribs are relaxed down. Almost that feeling of kind of hunching over. Allow that for a moment. Let yourself kind of relax forward. And then take your head up and back. And feel the structures in your neck and in your thoracic spine really start to come to life. And then see if you can maintain that up and back as you wrap your next present. So I thought while we were here, it might be fun to talk about New Year's resolutions. Have you guys, when I say fun, I mean that kind of, here's my feeling on New Year's resolutions. You can set a New Year's resolution at any time. And if the feeling of newness is good for you and helps you feel like you need the fresh start, then great, set yourself a New Year's resolution. But just remind yourself that you can do, the reason I don't love New Year's resolutions is that I think people have an expectation of failure with New Year's resolutions, right? Like, isn't that common in our culture that we just assume whatever we set as a New Year's resolution is going to be hard to do, it's going to be really challenging, and we're probably not going to be successful. I think a lot of us have a whole bunch of yucky beliefs around New Year's resolutions. So if you're going to set a New Year's resolution, I know a lot of people who've set amazing goals at the new year and at other times of the year, and I, in my line of work, get the privilege of watching people meet their goals, of watching people experience transformation. And it does take attention and some effort and some focus, some education and some inspiration, but it's not impossible. So if you're going to set a New Year's resolution, then remind yourself that it's possible, that what you're trying to do is possible. And it's not easy, but not hard, right? You're going to have to do something, because change doesn't happen with you doing nothing. You're going to have to do some things differently, but it doesn't have to be impossible to do those things. Are you still ramping your head up and back? When I focus on ramping my head while I'm working at my computer, it is a constant practice in mindfulness. Because especially as I'm doing something like wrapping a gift or working at my computer where my head just keeps turning down, I keep pulling my head down. So it's up and back. Really great one to work on while you're driving as well. I think it makes us safer drivers. I think we can see better. Okay, I'm going to move to standing. So the seated ones, to recap, we did top of the foot, we did basic sitting, talked about rolling your foot on a ball, the pigeon pose, the seated pigeon where we were letting our hip down and the dynamic version of that, and then ramp the head. Already we got a lot of stuff in there, right? Okay, I'm going to move to standing, and I'm just going to pull my chair out here, and I'm going to stand right at this. Let me see if I have to adjust my camera so that I'm not headless as I stand here. Oh, I love that, Dana. She said, not really a resolution, but having an intention of being focused on family values. I love that. Love, love, love. Okay, so I'm going to still work at this table, but here's the thing. What I like, if you have, you could do, depending on what you're wrapping, I don't know if an ironing board would work very well for wrapping because it's so narrow. But if you have counters in your house, they're often a little bit higher than this table. If you could also, on top of a table like this, put something like a box, all the shipping boxes that you're getting, or an upside down laundry basket will often work. But if you do something that's a little lower, I wouldn't want to work at this in this position for hours, like at my computer, but we could get a forward bend in. So that's where we're going to start. Forward bends, where we focus on bending with the hips, with the pelvis, are really powerful, both hamstring lengtheners and posterior chain strengtheners for how we come up. And when we're doing a task like this, we have a lot of up and down. So let me go, and you can play with your feet. You'll see me, I'm gonna move my feet around in several different positions. You could have one foot forward and one foot back as you bend forward. You could have them side by side, but a little bit wider, or you could have them pelvis width. all those different variations are wonderful and valid and will work different muscles. So play with it. There's no right or wrong answer about how to have your feet. But what we do want is that we're moving from the pelvis. So as you bend forward, make sure that your legs are straight. So I don't have a bend in my knees. My legs are straight. Outside edges of my feet are pointing straight ahead. And I'm sending my hips back toward the wall behind me. My pelvis is coming forward and my tailbone is lifting up as I hang out here. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that you guys are going to keep hearing the sound of paper. This is either like a genius idea, us wrapping presents together, or it's a total flop. But either way, I'm cool with it. If it helps one person get some good movement nutrients in while they're wrapping presents, then I'm cool with that. So I said it's a hamstring lengthener. You're getting that as you're doing the forward bend here, but it's also a hamstring strengthener if you come up mindfully. So for a second, tell me, or experiment, what's your default to how you would come up if you're bending forward in this way? Most people will come up by pulling their legs forward and using their quads to bring themselves up. But can you instead keep your hips back, either directly above your heels or even behind the line of your heels? And from there, I'm going to come up as I turn this present up on its side here in 1 second. From there, use your hamstrings to pull you up. So instead of pulling my thighs forward, I'm keeping my hips back as long as possible and coming up there. And up and down, bending forward and coming back up. And you don't have to come all the way up. You can kind of play with a little rocking motion where you're just moving between, but just try to keep your hips back behind you for the whole movement. Hips back, hips back. I might have run out of tape. Play with that because, and I just popped open my pop-up tape thing. Play with that because you get a different kind of lengthening, even in your hamstrings, when you're doing it in a way that also works with strengthening the muscle as well. So a lot of times you'll hear about dynamic stretching, and that's really what we're playing with there. We're playing with that chain to experiment and get different movement in as we go. All right, so, and you can, if you're doing this along with me, you can do 1 foot forward. So let's try that. Put 1 foot forward, another foot back. It doesn't matter, and it also doesn't matter, or there's no right or wrong answer about how far forward or how wide your feet are. You can play with all of that. When you're, like I said, when you're doing this in this way of what we're doing tonight, your goal is to just, instead of just sitting on the couch, not that there's something wrong with always sitting on the couch, but just instead of just sitting on the couch or sitting on the floor and using wine or something else as your way to unwind. Again, I'm not hating on the wine. I love a good glass of wine myself. But let's just, you can have wine as you do your healthy moving. Let's just be mindful about the choices we're making in the time of what we're doing so that we can experiment and get lots of different things. Okay, I told you we were going to do the top of the foot stretch standing. So let's play with that. Can you see my feet? Let me just make sure my feet are, yes, my feet are. You might not be able to see my head as I do this. So the top of the foot, the standing top of the foot stretch is a little bit of a balance exercise. Oh, thank you, Monica. I'm so glad. It's a little bit of a balance exercise. So asking you to do a balance exercise while you're wrapping gifts is either the nicest, funnest thing I've ever done or also kind of scary. If your balance feels compromised, if for any reason, then skip it or hold on firmly to the table as you're doing it. But you can control how intense this one is. And maybe, I hear from my students in my coaching and challenge program often tell me when they're first starting that, and especially at this time of the year when people are wearing boots. I live in Florida, so I don't wear boots. But I hear, pray tell, of some people wearing boots at this time of the year. And when you are wearing boots, you're getting a lot more tension at the front. That's what we're working, right? The tension at the front of the ankle. Your ankle in boots can't move as much, and most boots can't move as much. So when it can't move, it gets really stiff. So if you wear boots, I highly recommend, if you can, to do this one or the seated version that we did at the beginning, right after you take your boots off. So if you get home, take your boots off, and then do this exercise. Switch and do the second side as well. You want to be, it's not, the conversation about what is pain and how much can you feel, especially if you haven't done this one a lot, you're going to feel something. You're going to feel tension. You know in your knower. I want you to use your intuition. I can't tell you whether the pain that you're feeling is right or wrong or safe or not safe. I can tell you that the research shows us that we don't do damage to the tissue immediately in the moment when we come into a gentle stretch like this. It's repeated over and over where we can experience damage if we're going to experience it. But what I want you to say is, how do I think I'll feel about this level of discomfort? And how do I think this level of discomfort is going to impact me tomorrow? Like, if it's just new, is it a new feeling or is it pain? Switch and do the other side again. Be mindful of that. While we're working balancing stuff, so we're still working the top of the feet, we did the back. I'm going to give you another balance exercise here in a moment. And you don't actually have to come fully off the ground with one foot. You can keep one foot down. But this top of the foot stretch is a nice warm-up. I have to take a second and fix my tape dispenser because I broke it and now it's making it really hard for me to get tape out. I'm using the, what is this called? The pop-up thing from Scotch. I use it every year. I don't even know if they still make it. I think they do because they still make the refills. But I never like the feeling of it on my hand because it makes me feel claustrophobic because I'm weird. But I love the use of it. So I keep it on the table next to me because I feel like I use less tape if I'm not in charge of ripping it off. You have a predefined. Did you do your second side? A predefined piece of tape. Okay, so now we're going to do a standing leg extension, and we're going to do it with a forward bend. So come back into your forward bend that you did a little while ago, and then experiment. Take first, before you come fully off the ground, just take one foot back behind you and have the toes like lightly resting on the ground. You're going to feel the standing leg start to work in potentially new ways. It's going to come to life, as I like to say. And when you feel that, if you feel like that's enough and you don't want any more, then stay there. But maybe lift the back toes off the ground. I told you. And if you lift them up and decide you don't want them up, well, guess what you can do? Just stick them back down again. Simple, simple. Take care of yourself. Honor what your body is requesting of you. Switch. Bring that foot forward. Can you stay hinged forward there? Step your other foot back. And then potentially lift the toes up. Did you see how my pelvis shifted forward? I lost my screensaver came on again. When you lift your back foot up, your pelvis will drift forward because your quad will say, hey, you're working hard. I can do that work for you. So you want to try to keep your hips back toward the wall behind you as you lift your hip up. As you lift your foot up. Okay, now we did a little bit of balancing. Now we're going to do a squat. So we did forward bending. I wrote squat. on the gift card. Oh my goodness. Oh my gracious. So you can get forward. Like I said, if you're working at a table that's a little lower than your ideal height, I lost my comments. Then what you can do is, here we go. What you can do is hinge forward like this, or you can sit your hips back. Now we're really getting into the glutes. So let's play. Let me get the next wrapping paper. I'm trying to vary the wrapping paper that I'm using. So, squatting. Let me just show you a squat for a second. A lot of times in squatting, people will send their knees forward of their ankles as they squat, whatever. But if you want your squat to work your glute, which is your glute and your posterior chain is a neglected area of the body that many of us aren't working, then you need to back your knees up so that your shins are vertical. So I went from here to here. Now that might mean that you don't sit back as far, and that's okay because your glutes might not be ready for you to sit back as far as you could if your quads were doing the work. So sit your hips back as far as you are able, and then hinge forward. Let me scoot this down. So if you sit to here, but you need to get down to this height in order to do your project, your wrapping or whatever you're doing, then just lean your torso forward, but keep your knees over your ankles. And you can step 1 foot forward as you do it, of course. All kinds of movement can happen. So every year there's one present that I wrap that I either fail at cutting the paper, I don't cut it long enough or big enough or whatever, or it defies, the present itself defies the wrapping paper. So it's just not, the wrapping paper isn't big enough. And yes. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do if I cut the wrapping paper wrong while I'm live on Facebook? And then I just decided that's who I am, people. I sometimes fail at gift wrapping. But I'm super excited because this is what I have here. Like, we don't do 5 million presents Christmas morning for the kids. We do. I have 3 kids. If you don't know that already about me, I have 3 kids. We do a few things. I heard somewhere a while back that for Santa gifts, we do Santa, but we do a downplayed version of Santa because I homeschool. So my kids don't go to school, public school, but they go to a homeschool enrichment program and Sunday school and other places. And I heard a while ago, my squat is really talking to me right now. I heard to be mindful about what you call as the gift from Santa, because, and you can come to standing, if your kids interact with other kids who don't have, if you give your kid whatever, some expensive thing from Santa, but some other kid in their circle gets something less from Santa, then it can cause stuff. So we don't give big extravagant gifts anyway, but we give from Santa a book and some small toy. This year, the kids are getting games. They each requested, and I'm so excited. My son requested Battleship, which I'm really excited about. And my daughter requested Mastermind. So I'm really looking forward to those games and to having those. So that's some standing stuff. We did top of the foot stretch. We did a forward bend with leg extension, and squats. You got seated stuff in a chair, standing stuff. Now we're going to take it down to the ground. So you can do all these exercises. You can do wrapping with all of these right on the floor. You can place the presents right down and get the project that you're doing right down on the floor. And I'm going to do that at the very end for the last thing. I have 2 more gifts I'm going to wrap. But I just want to show you. So I have here a low table. We use this in our school work with my kids. Let's slide it over. Because we can be on the floor with this table. But I pulled it out because I know a lot of people have something like an ottoman or a lower couch or a low coffee table or something like that. So I wanted to show you what some stuff might look like if you were working on a surface like that, but sitting on the floor. So here's the thing about sitting on the floor that I should say, is that if you haven't been sitting on the floor for the past however many years, well then yeah, like it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. I pulled out a bolster here, and this is like technically a yoga bolster, but you could use a sleeping bag. If you have couch cushions that come off the ground, like thick, firm couch cushions, you could set those on the ground. Pillows are okay, but they usually aren't firm enough. Remember how I told you I always have one present that defies the wrapping paper? I'm afraid it might be this one, but we're going to give it A for effort. So whatever you're sitting, if you haven't been sitting on the ground for a while, then I wouldn't recommend, even for short periods like you're doing with wrapping, sitting straight on the ground. You're probably going to tweak your back or something like that if you do that. So instead, sit on something, bolster yourself up. And you can do all kinds of different things with your legs while you do this. So I'm going to start with my legs straight out. I like to do legs straight out. In yoga, this is sometimes called intense. Let's see, can I get it this way? Oh boy, it's going to be questionable. I'm going to try it. Like, everybody stay tuned for how I do here. Did I say, because I had no audio at the beginning, I can't remember if I said, I'll put it in when I share this video, I'll make sure I say it. But I made you guys, I wanted to give you a gift. It's something to make healthy moving easier for you as you wrap gifts. It's a PDF file that you can download and print or save to your smartphone or something that has some of these exercises. It's like a graphic for the exercise and written out descriptions for them. Moment of truth is coming up here. You can get that at healthymoving.com/wrap. It's free. It's just for you to encourage you to move while you wrap. I think this wrapping paper is double-sided, so I think I could use both sides of it. Okay, so far, we made it all the way over. So far, so good. Where's my tape? All right, so I'm going to do intense Western stretch in yoga, where I have both legs straight out in front of me. And I'm not going to move the camera and everything around, but a cool way to do this is at a wall. So where your feet are at the wall. So I'm in basically an L, and ideally your feet are completely flat. Imagine that you were, if you're not already, imagine that you were sitting. I can't see your comments, but I see they're coming in. Imagine that your feet are pressed up against a wall. For a second, let them relax. Like, feel that. And then activate your feet. Draw your toes toward you, the balls of your feet toward you, so that they could be, imagine that they were pressed up against a wall, and feel how that changes the stretch. And then, while you're here, if you just lean a tiny bit forward there, then it even can come into your neck. Where did I put my two? Here it is. It even can come into your neck. So legs are straight, and this is one where hanging out for a bit of time is nice. So if you wrap an entire present or 2 or 3 or 4 or however many with your legs in this position, you'll get a lot of nice release. I like to sit in this position at a wall with my feet at the wall while I'm doing work on my computer. So I have my computer on a chair or on this little table or on something. Oh goodness, I don't know about the side. It's all going to depend on how high, because it doesn't come all the way in. Guys, I cursed myself to it happening. Okay, I think we might be okay. Whoa, it's close, but it's covered. And he's 5, so he won't care. He'll forgive his beloved mama, even if he can see a tiny little bit. And it's just the box. He can't even see. It's the shipping box. It's a, I don't know. I think I just messed it up. No, it's okay. Saved. So when you're sitting in a position like this for a prolonged period of time, I find that you get a little mini release that allows you to go deeper into it. So if you hinged forward, but you've been sitting here for a while doing one side, then see if you can hinge forward again. Can you go a little bit further forward? We're golden on this side. Can you hinge a little further forward to keep the stretch pretty active? And can you like bow your head a little bit more? How does that change your experience? When you're moving, doing something else with your upper body. So it's a different experience. If you were sitting in a yoga class or you rolled out your mat and you were doing a yoga practice and you were doing this stretch and you're just sitting there for a few minutes, there is validity in both. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but right now, because of how you're moving to do the task at hand, you're getting these little micro differences to how you experience the stretch. And I think they're both needed. We so often put our movement in this box of like, oh, well, I do my movement when I'm at yoga class, and when I'm not in yoga, I don't move. I do something different. Be mindful. Give yourself the option and the opportunity to try to do something a little bit different, to just tweak in some small way how you're moving so that you can use different muscles. Okay, now I'm going to have it right on the floor. I have one more present here to wrap with you guys. It's going to be another tricky one. So my 2-year-old is obsessed with my cleaning supplies. So I just went on Amazon and I was like, toddler cleaning supplies. This is the Melissa and Doug cleaning set. It had so many. I never heard of it. I've had other kids. I have 2 other kids. I never heard of it or never knew anyone to recommend this. But guys, it's got like 1 billion amazing reviews on Amazon. So I'm hoping that if I think it's like stuff he can actually kind of pretend to clean with. And if so, I'm hoping that he will become like an expert chore doer. Of course, he's 2. I'm not going to be a slave about it, but I just thought, oh my gosh, he loves this. Let's run with it. All right, it's going to be another challenging one. So right now, how I'm sitting, I have one foot tucked in. I'm going to do a full V-sit. Right now, I'm going to work through 3 different versions of a V-sit. I'm going to have one foot out and one knee bent with the foot in. Then I'll do the opposite foot, and then I'll have both feet wide. One of the things I find with an exercise like the V-sit, I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's not going to be wide enough to go. Definitely can't go that way. It definitely can't go that way. So use a whole ton of wrapping paper here. You'll find as you start to play more with weaving movement into how you do things, how you get clothes out of the dryer, how you load your dishwasher, how you every little thing that you have to do, even put laundry away, like all the tasks of daily living. As you start to say, hey, how can I make this a little bit more dynamic? You'll find that you, dare I say, you enjoy movement in a playful kind of way. You know how dance, there's some kinds of dance that are really strict with the specific move, but if you just think about like dancing to music in your kitchen or somewhere like that, it's like movement that you just enjoy. I think so many of us think of exercise as not enjoyable. And I understand why. All the history that so many of us bring to it, pain, and we feel failure, like we did something wrong or something's wrong with us. And I understand all of that. And a huge part of the way I like to work with people, especially women, is to help you rediscover that moving your body can be fun and can feel good and enjoyable rather than like torture. And when you start to weave it into your life, like we're doing now, that becomes easier. So I should tell you, I'm really, so there for a little bit longer, a couple, like how many days are left in this year, I'm keeping my 2017 prices. We're going to make some adjustments to the pricing of things at Healthy Moving because we've been adding all kinds of wonderful fun stuff in the new year in 2018. So we have a challenge. Let me tell you about my coaching and challenge programs. We did this last present. So the primary like flagship program that I have at Healthy Moving is called the Coaching and Challenge Program. And what I do in that program is I am basically your virtual personal trainer. So I've built the program so that I can deliver personal training protocols in a variety of different ways through challenges that you can participate in or take passes. We have a challenge going on almost all the time. And we have a new big 6-week challenge coming up the first Sunday in January. So that must be the 7th, I think. So the first is a Monday, whatever. Yeah, the first Sunday, a week after New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, I believe, is a Sunday, and it's the week after that we start. So, and what we do in the challenges is every day you get a simple exercise that you can weave into your day, and I tell you why you would want to do it, what it's good for. Like I'll say, this one is really important for helping with the pelvic floor. I think I know there's some people who are in the challenge program who are watching. They can comment as well below. I would love for them to share with you their experience. But so you get a simple exercise. So you don't need a lot of time to do that. A couple minutes to learn the exercise, and then it's something that you do. And for every exercise, I tell you how to do it. I tell you why you would want to do it. So I really believe in motivating you with the information. So I say, this one is really important for your core, or this one's really important. And I teach you all about why it's important. I want you to be able to learn and choose movement as you need it, as your intuition leads you. So I want you to have that information. So there's a simple exercise that you do every day, but every week I also give a hour-long class recommendation, and some weeks that's a brand new hour-long class that I do live where I answer questions for people in the program as we go through the class. And sometimes it's a recording of a class. There are hundreds of videos inside the coaching program, are hundreds of videos of exercises. Some classes are hour-long, some classes are 30 minutes, some classes are 10, 20 minutes. Whatever you need, there's a class in there. But I want to help guide you through all of that, so that's why I give the weekly guidance. But Also, there's guidance based on topics. So you could follow a track, we call them tracks. You could follow a track for the neck and shoulders, or you could follow a track for pelvic floor, or you could follow a track for core, all those different kind of things so that you're getting movement that's relevant to what's going on with you. We have a new challenge starting January, I believe it's the 7th. It's the first Sunday in January, and similar around that time, if maybe before around January, beginning of January, we're going to update the prices. So if you would like to check out information on the coaching program, you can go to healthymoving.com/coaching. I would absolutely love to have you in that program. And if you check it out and you have any questions about it at all, send me an email, jen@healthymoving.com. Okay, guys, I got a lot of my wrapping. I'm very close to, I just have the Santa stuff, and I'm going to get different paper for that. But I'm pretty close to done. I'm going to help my kids wrap their gifts for their people, but pretty close to done. So don't forget, you can go to healthymoving.com/wrap, WRAP, to get the printable of exercises that you can do while you're wrapping gifts. I know this week, like, we're in the final home stretch. It's crazy. There's tons of stress. Everybody's got a lot of stuff on their mind. Weave self-care in. I'd love to support and encourage you on that journey, and let me know in any way that I can help you with that, but it's really important. When you think about all the things that you have to do, and last night I got to bed late. We had been out late, and then I got to bed, and I fell asleep, and then I woke up again at 12:15, and I laid in bed, and I was thinking, I meant to text my neighbor something, and I was my mind was just spinning with this long list of things that I was feeling like, I should do this, I should do that. And I know we all battle that. And when it comes to health and wellness, it's really easy to just push ourselves to the side. But the airline, put your oxygen mask on first. Put your own oxygen mask on first. I'm telling you. So what I did at 12:15 is I thought maybe I should get out of bed and make myself a list of all of these things, because I'm a list maker. And then I just decided I'm going to just go onto the floor and put my feet up on the bed. So I laid down on the floor, and I put my feet in like an L shape. So my feet and shins were on the bed, and my thighs were beside it. And I was like, I'm just going to lay there and just focus on my breath. So I laid there, and as a thought came in, I just kind of, as I exhaled, I was like, I'm going to just release it. If I'm supposed to do it, if I need to do it, it'll come to me later. And within less than 5 minutes, I could feel that my eyes were getting heavy, so I crawled back up into the bed, and I fell back asleep. And then today, that same list of what I was thinking about at 12:15, it felt much less daunting. And I banged out that stuff this morning, all the things, like 10 minutes. I texted my neighbor the thing I needed to do. I took care of all the little things that were kind of looming in my mind that felt so big. And I think they felt big, yes, partially because it was 12:15 at night, but also partially because I hadn't really taken care of myself. I didn't do anything for self-care yesterday. I was running with the kids. We were taking care of last minute things. We had a dress rehearsal for their nativity practice. We had all this stuff, and I just went run the whole day. And I didn't slow down. I didn't stop that pace. I didn't put my own oxygen mask on. And something so simple as just laying on the ground for a couple of minutes really helped me change gears. And that's what I'm about. I'm not about adding extra things to make you feel more intense or feel like you have more stuff to do. What I want is to give you the important things, important tools and resources that will help you get done the things that you have to get done, because the constantly feeling like you're not getting enough done, like you're not doing enough, like you're not enough. If I have a wish for you in 2018, it's that you will know you are enough. And I want to do everything I can to support you on that. All right, guys, don't forget healthymoving.com/wrap. Grab your printable, finish up your wrapping early, get to bed early on Christmas Eve this year. All right, friends. Good night.